What's going on, everybody? RJ Ochoa here from SB Nation's bloggingtheboys.com. Hope all is well wherever you are. We hope you're happy, safe, healthy, and that you're excited because the 2022 NFL Draft is about, 9 days away from now. We have reached single digits, an exciting time. It's 9 days away because today is Tuesday, April 19th, 2022. It's 5 p.m. Central Time in the Republic of Texas, and because it is 5 p.m. Central Time on a Tuesday, that means it is time for a Blogging the Boys Roundtable. Joining me tonight, competing for eternal glory by way of Roundtable crowns. We have, first of all, in the 12 o'clock position, it is from bloggingtheboys.com, the Riled Up podcast on the Blogging the Boys podcast network, the one and only Tom Ryle over there at about 2:30, a little bit of a late lunch, kind of like I had today. It's what happens when you have a baby around the house. You hear him on Hidden Yardage on Monday on the Blogging the Boys podcast network. You see his fantastic transcriptions all over the place on Twitter at The Real Mark Lane. It is, of course, Lois's nephew, Mark Lane. Mark, great to be with you. Joining us down there about 4:30 where it gets dark, up, I guess, in Alaska, a little bit close to where he is. Up in Oregon where there's not maple syrup, we've learned by way of these fantastic roundtables. Enjoying winning time he is. And I learned that the second half of the final season of Ozark is coming back soon because of him. From last Friday's edition of the Star Seminar, it is the Professor Dan Rogers, a.k.a. Danny Phantom, on Twitter at DannyPhantom24. Joining us for the first time tonight, you see him on the pages at bloggingtheboys.com, one of our fantastic contributors at BTB, on Twitter at Brian Martin NFL. That's Brian with an I. Brian, thanks for joining our roundtable. We'll start with you. How is your Tuesday going?
Busy. I've been moving these past few weeks, so still getting adjusted.
Tom, if you had to rank the activities that a human being can experience, where does moving fall on that list for you?
Oh, somewhere between a root canal and finding out that you've been fired from the job you really love.
Is moving better or worse than the root canal? Like, just so we know what's like above it and below it.
It's a little bit worse and just a tiny bit.
So you'd rather have a root canal than get fired, is what you're saying?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we all would. Okay, that's well said. Dan, how was this week's episode of Winning Time?
I haven't watched Sunday's episode, so bad question to ask me. I'm a little behind on that, but everything else has been fantastic, I will say.
You are kind of a late watcher of stuff. Dan also likes Survivor like I do, and you will wait a couple of days to watch stuff. You're a patient person.
Just busy. I mean, I try to I don't want to be interrupted, so I just kind of, I do it on my own time. But yeah, you definitely you can't wait too long because there are people, like you out there who could, tweet some stuff. So I don't wait too long. But yeah, I haven't seen it yet. And I'm halfway through Better Call Saul. I fell asleep halfway through last night, first episode. So don't tell me anything about that.
Right on. Moinka, by the way, Dan, says that you are representing the Northwest. So I'm not exactly sure where Moinka's from, but the top left corner of the old United States. Mark, Jose Christian, says it's 9 days until Traylon Burke becomes a Cowboy. I know that would make you happy, you and your Razorback fandom. Samuel Rowe, by the way, said that I was late. I was late. I was the last person to get here. But I've learned that you can blame a lot of things on the baby, and it was the baby's fault, which is why I was late. Mark, I want to start with you. This was not on our rundown, but we have a comment here from Diesel80 who says, why does no one on this podcast speak on the dysfunctional problems within the organization? Well, Diesel, I don't think anybody has spoken about that this offseason. I think everything has been sunshine and rainbows. But Mark, today, Stephen Jones appeared on 105.3 The Fan again. Sorry guys, this wasn't on the rundown. And he compared Dorrance Armstrong's production to Randy Gregory. Now, I know that Dan has a bit of a patient perspective on this. I did see him tweet about this, so I'm excited to kind of kick this around the bend. But Mark, I start with you. Stephen Jones and the Cowboys kind of have to spin the fact that Randy Gregory is no longer on the team, obviously member of the Denver Broncos, and said that when you look at the production, he's kind of right there with Randy Gregory. Now, Stephen is correct in that Randy Gregory had 6 sacks last year and Dorrance Armstrong had 5, but the comparison just about ends there. Mark, is this all spin? Is this kind of fair? Like, how do you feel about it?
I think that this is completely spin because they have to sell you on the fact that they were only able to keep Dorrance Armstrong and that Randy Gregory got away right at the last moment. Kind of like when a Scooby-Doo villain gets unmasked. I would have got away with it if it
Ruh-roh.
weren't for those meddling kids. It was kind of like that with Randy Gregory. He just got away. So they have to save face and say, well, we like where Dorrance Armstrong is headed and he's got high upside, and it may be true, but to act like he's right there with Randy Gregory right now, I don't think that that's necessarily accurate. Even if he was a sack behind him, Gregory brought a presence in the locker room. He was one of the leaders. So you need Armstrong to step up and be one of those leaders in the defensive line room. But I mean, I've got it right here. I was actually working on the transcript right before.
Of course you were.
Steven said, quote, so, there's the same thing with Dorrance Armstrong. We hated to lose Randy Gregory. We went down to the wire with him. At the same time, you look at production, you look at what Dorrance Armstrong has done. He's right there from a production standpoint with Randy, unquote.
Brian, the reaction to this was as people would expect. Maybe not Diesel 80, but at least everybody else. People were upset. People were bothered. Do you think that this is something that Steven has to carry this water? He has to go on the radio and he has to say this? Or do you think it would be wise to maybe verbalize it in a different way?
I think he pretty much has to try to get everybody to drink the Kool-Aid, I guess. Gregory was a fan favorite, and losing him the way they did really hurt the fan base. They have to pick up the pieces somehow, and they're hoping Armstrong can do that.
Tom, so I wrote about this at bloggingtheboys.com, where everybody should visit all the time. In fact, just make it your homepage so that you never miss out. Just refresh it 1,000 times for no reason. That would be cool. But Tom, part of what I thought was actually stupid, I'll use that word, is that Steven is trying to now sell, as Mark and Brian have posited, hey, you know what? We got Dorrance Armstrong. All right, we're working out here. Okay, so my question is then, why did you want to pay Randy to begin with? Why were you so in on paying Randy Gregory? If Dorrance Armstrong's really right there in production, why was that not your plan A all along, Tom?
Well, I think it really comes back to the fact that I don't think I've ever heard Stephen Jones admit he made a mistake. And this is just his standard avoidance of that thing. And so he resorts to trying to blow sunshine into a part of our anatomy where it should never be. And I just, it's best just to say, hey, we really would have liked to have kept Randy Gregory. We've gone with, a fallback plan, and we're going to try to make the best out of it. We've got the draft coming up, so we'll see what develops from that. But no, he's got to make it sound like he's the smartest guy in the room.
Dan, you are perhaps the most patient person in the room, as mentioned. One of our favorite qualities about you, again, everybody can hear Dan and his everlasting patience on the Star Seminar every Friday with BTB legend Rabble Rouser. Johnny Boy RN says, Dan, this team makes themselves look like amateurs when they say things like this. It's embarrassing. What do you got, Dan? Well, and remember, there are points at stake. Brian, I know you're new around here. There are winners for every round here on the Roundtables, and then an overall winner, of course.
Yeah, well, I know this isn't going to win any points, but you know what? I'm gonna enlighten you guys on something about Stephen Jones that you guys don't know, and that's he likes our guys. So I know that's new to you, but I mean, of course he's going to say that. Honestly, I don't have any problems with it. I mean, we got to focus on right now. I don't think there's a huge gap between. I mean, Gregory is a special talent, but Armstrong's a fine player. And when you look at the money that they're making, I don't have any problems at all us going Armstrong over Gregory. But I mean, you have to say things. Would you rather him be more like Jerry, like, oh, I wish we would have had him. I should have paid more.
I think we would all rather hear that today. Yes,
you would. You want to hear?
Well, I think there. Not to cut you off, Dan, but friend of Blogging the Boys, John Owning, I thought had a great tweet about this. We all love John, his work. It's featured all over the pages at bloggingtheboys.com. He tweeted that there are a million things he could have said that would be better. Something like, hey, we hated to lose Randy, but you know what? Dorrance is younger. Dorrance hasn't had as many opportunities as of late as Randy. We hope that happens. We hope, and I saw thought you've even written about this before, Dan. Maybe relative to what they are being paid, there will be a larger return on investment when it comes to Dorrance Armstrong as opposed to Randy. That's not saying Randy will suck as a player, but it's a lot more difficult to live up to that contract than it is for Dorrance to live up to this one. So I think those are things he could have said. Again, like the hypocrisy with what he said is very blatantly obvious, which is why people like Johnny Boyaren feel the way they do.
Yeah, well, I mean, Steven. I mean, I guess if to expect him to give us a Jason Garrett answer is, I mean, I don't even know what to say about that. He's Stephen Jones. That is what he's going to say. He's going to keep saying things like that. I mean, you can let it bother you. You can get mad, but it's I don't know. To me, it's a non-issue.
Okay, well, the time has come to award the winner for round one of today's roundtable. Brian, again, I know you're new around here, so it's very simple. I am the the judge, the jury, and the executioner. It's not a role that I enjoy. It's just a role that I've, nobody else wanted. Nobody else fell on this grenade.
You enjoy it.
So I'm willing to do it. Round one goes to Mark. A lot of the fact was that he had the transcription ready and available. Everybody, come on, hustle as hard as Mark, please. But I thought Mark hit the nail on the head. It's spin, baby. That's all the Cowboys are doing. I mean, there's a reason that Stephen Jones went on the radio today, and it was to get this spin ahead out before the pre-draft press conference, which will happen next week. Mark, do you anticipate a little bit more spin, or do you think that next time we hear from the Cowboys, they'll be starting to look forward towards the draft?
More spin, because on Friday he's going back on the Fan.
Look at that. Look, that's why he wins round one, people.
But no, I gotta do better, in terms of just hustle and everything. I would actually compare you to if Tony Ryle had the Infinity Gauntlet. That's actually what RJ's like.
Mark, as our round winner, you get to choose the topic that we hit next. I slacked all of you the topic list for today. So, Brian, that's the rule. Whoever wins the round gets to choose what's next. Mark, what direction would you like to go in?
I'm intrigued by this topic. What offers the most room for surprise?
So, as I typed this up, I did not have this ready. Like I said, the baby made me late. The 2022 NFL Draft begins 9 days from now. The Dallas Cowboys hold the 24th overall pick, the 56th overall pick, the 88th overall pick. They have 3 selections inside of the top 100. It's pretty chalk, I think, or it's going to be pretty chalk when the Cowboys take a guard and take a wide receiver and take a tight end. That's probably the combination of picks that we can come to expect. Maybe you throw an edge rusher in there. They're going to take 3 of those 4 position groups in their first 3 picks. So, what can happen that would be a surprise from a realistic and a practical perspective? Mark, this is your question, so you can answer it first if you'd like, or you can choose who you want to take it first.
No, I want the shot.
Look at that. Okay. All right.
I think, you know what? I think running back, I think that would be a surprise because people are looking at, well, they got Ezekiel Elliott and they got Tony Pollard. So then if they use a 5th round pick, I'd say even a 4th round pick on a running back, they might be like, oh, what are they doing? Well, I guess that means Pollard's out of here. And so they found the Joseph Randle to Tony Pollard's DeMarco Murray. So I think running back.
Okay. You think that could happen realistically with a 1st, 2nd, or 3rd round selection? Because I think we all think they'll take one.
Oh, no. 1st, 2nd, or 3rd. Yeah, I'm going to say running back with the 3rd.
Okay. All right. Tom, what offers the most room for surprise with the draft? Single-digit days away now.
I would say if they went safety early in the 1st, 2nd, or 3rd.
Again, we're talking here, not that these are bad answers, but things that are practical, things that are within the realm of possibility. So, I don't want to hear like they trade for, whatever. I mean, let's keep it real. But go ahead, Tom.
Yeah, I would. There's some high quality safeties that should be available to them early, and I don't think they ever would want to do that. It would really surprise me if they went and used it there, something that could really help shore up the secondary even more. To me, that would be a big surprise, with the second thing being if they went tight end early, because this is not a good tight end class. You want to save your day 3 picks to try to do that.
Interesting, Tom. Yesterday, Mel Kiper wrote about different projections for throughout the entire draft and noted that Trey McBride, the Colorado State tight end, who, by the way, Connor Livesey had on Talking the Draft, a different show you can listen to on the Blog of the Boys podcast network, that if you want him, he's going to go somewhere in the first 2 rounds. Cowboys obviously have a need. You could very easily see that being the case, but not according to Tom, who hates all the tight ends in this class, apparently. Brian, what offers the most room for surprise from a realistic perspective concerning the Cowboys right now?
I'm going to have to go defensive tackle.
Oh, yeah.
All about maximizing Micah Parsons' potential. Get him a big body in front of him and let him do his thing with room to run. Maybe someone like Travis Jones in a small trade down scenario in the end of the first, or Perry and Winfrey in the second. I think that would be a big surprise. They haven't drafted a defensive tackle early since, 1991, and first round Russell Maryland.
Number 1 overall pick. That's right. I think everybody's head when you first said defensive tackle runs to Jordan Davis, obviously, because that's the sexy Vogue name to know at the position right now. And I think like him specifically, like we sit here all the time, all of us, and we say like, what could the Cowboys do to provide some juice to this offseason? Because it's been dry. I mean, it's the SpongeBob meme where he's like, completely and totally parched. But like landing that and doing something, to your point, Brian, that they haven't done in 30 years would be that like, whoa, they are changing. They are different. They are thinking differently. Whoa, this is awesome. This is fun. Have an early clubhouse leader for a round 2 winner. Dan, if you want to go, you can, although I don't really see a point. What offers the most room for surprise?
Well, you're right. I mean, because those were all great answers. I think all of those could be any of those positions. In the first couple of days would be a surprise, especially with as many bodies as they have a defensive tackle. To go out and grab another, especially if they spend like a round 2 pick, that would be a surprise. But I'm going to go a different direction than all of y'all. I'm going to say, I know the Cowboys love this draft class, and they love that group. What I expect to happen, and I don't know how it's going to happen exactly, but I think that they're going to be doing some weird trading, whether we're looking about getting back and then maybe going forward from the 3rd, or maybe trading some next year's draft capital. But I think that they really, if you look at their pre-draft visitors, there's just a lot of players grouped into that like 20 to 50 range. It's like, you only got 1 pick in that spot. So to me, I think the Cowboys are going to do some weird trading to position themselves for a player they like.
It's interesting. Perhaps that would be their all-in move, right? Like we've been waiting to kind of see them do or exemplify something that suggests that they believe that the time is now. I like that. Dan. I don't like it as much as Brian's. Again, a bit of a spoiler as far as who's going to win this round. But Tom, I'm going to throw Alex's point to you. Alex Storm says, the surprise to me is if Jerry doesn't pick a wide receiver instead of a trenches player. All signs are pointing to yet another splash player instead of building for the long haul. I'm going to amend Alex's point a little bit, Tom. We all think, I said right now, the Cowboys are walking away from the top 100 picks with a wide receiver. What if they don't? What if they don't draft a wide receiver? What if they're fully committed to CeeDee Lamb and Michael Gallup getting healthy and Simi Fehoko taking a step and James Washington and Noah Brown, who they brought back, and some sort of cast-off free agent, obviously undrafted free agency? They've had a lot of success there at the wide receiver position specifically. Would you be surprised? Would you be upset? Would you be bummed? How would you feel if they don't draft a wide receiver in the top 100?
Well, I think they've got enough other needs that you can build a justifiable case how they could spend their draft picks smarter in the first 3 rounds without, picking up some extras like Dan was talking about doing. So that would not bum me out, because I think there's still some decent options they can get in the 4th and 5th rounds. And let's be honest, I think they do like their own guys a bit better than a lot of us do when we look at what the current wide receiver room is shaped like.
Interesting. Okay, well said, all of you. A fantastically debated round, but the round 2 winner, Brian, your first W on the board on the round table. We have a tie so far for today's lead. Mark has a point. Brian has a point. Just to be clear, no points for Tom, no points for Dan. I just read the standings as they lie. There's no fun or joy that comes out of that whatsoever. Brian, we went over the subject list a little while ago. What do you want to explore next?
Oh, I don't know. You're the moderator. I'll let you choose.
You know what? That's very kind of you, even though you earned this. But I'm going to go ahead and go with a question that I posited, and I'll take a moment to get it typed up. But, Brian, I'll ask you first. And, again, this is your right to answer first, or you can go somewhere else if you want. Be strategic. Is this the least that we have felt like we have known about the Cowboys entering a draft in recent memory. And by that, I mean, we understand that they need a guard. We understand that they need a wide receiver. We understand they need help at the edge rush position. We understand they need depth at linebacker and potentially even cornerback now. Obviously, that's a delicate situation and a tragic situation. But we still don't really kind of know. Like, by now, it's really been telegraphed, normally who they want, specifically who they want. So do you feel like that is the case? Maybe I'm making that up in my own mind. How do you feel?
Ooh, that's a good question. I'm a bit torn. With all that, we all know they need a lot of depth at almost every position except quarterback. So there's still a lot of unknown about this team. Even down to Kellen Moore, we still don't really know what his identity is as a play caller. So the Cowboys are a real mystery right now, heading to the draft and which direction they could go.
Mark, do you agree that we normally know a little bit more, that we normally have more tea leaves to read in between?
Yeah, I think relative to the fact it's a first-round pick that's on the line, they should know a little more. But it reminds me of 2019 when they didn't. So what was Dallas going to do in the second round? Who was going to be there? I think this has some of the same ambiguity relative to a first-round pick. I think 2013 with Sharif Floyd, and then they trade back, get Travis Frederick. 2012 could also be a surprise because Michael Brockers was mocked to them and everything, and then Morris Claiborne, So those are the ones that I would compare this to. It's not been that long ago.
Well, it feels like long ago. I mean, in my head at least. Mark, I do want to say that Alex Storm says that you get a bonus point for calling the crypto thing last week on the Roundtable because the Cowboys had announced that they were going to make their major business announcement 2 days from, again, last week's Roundtable. We all guessed what we thought it would be. You rightfully guessed an announcement with some sort of cryptocurrency company. So blockchain.com and the Dallas Cowboys have a world-renowned partnership. So congratulations, Mark. You don't really get a point. But if you feel better about it, I mean, by all means.
It's a whose line point.
That's true. They don't matter. Really, these other points do matter, just to be very clear. Dan, you are somebody who I think is very astute at tracking the interests of the Dallas Cowboys. The Blogging the Boys archives are littered with deciphered draft boards. Blogging the Boys has literally broken down multiple Dallas Cowboys draft boards in history. And Dan, you're always so great at going back and recounting those and assessing what kind of grades the Cowboys had on players and whatnot. So from that perspective, are you surprised by the kind of lack of definitive knowledge that we seem to have about this team at this particular point so close to the draft?
Well, first off, thank you, RJ, for the kind words. Appreciate that.
No points on the board yet, Dan. So you got to work pretty hard. Just
I don't play for points. So I kind of feel like we know enough. I mean, the Cowboys. One thing I will credit those guys with is that they're pretty good about like holding true with the best player available thing. They will zag when a CD falls to them, and they will. So, I mean, they may have a plan, but then the layout may change their plans. So there's still a lot of mystery, to me. But, I mean, I still feel like I think we know it's going to be a wide receiver or a guard in round one. I'd bet a lot of Shroot bucks on that. After that, it gets a little bit, I mean, who knows? Is somebody going to fall to them at 56 or are they going to, take one of their chances again? So I would say it's typical. I don't think it's any more or less. I feel comfortable with what I know. I expect some surprises. I'm excited about the surprises, but I think for the most part, we have a pretty good idea. The fact that they stick a lot with their draft visits, gives us something. So I would say it's normal.
Tom, I mentioned the archives of Blogging the Boys. They're also littered with articles from you talking about how much the Cowboys tend to blab. That's one of your favorite words. You love to talk about and write about, almost from like a dissertation perspective, how loose the Cowboys are with their lips. So Johnny Boy RN says, I think we know more about this team going into the draft in a long time. They have so many obvious needs they're trying to fill. And this is where I kind of agree with Dan, but I agree with myself as well in that normally they have blabbed their intentions. Tom, what we know right now is just obvious. It's the superficial level. How could you not be interested in a guard? How could you not be interested in a wide receiver? Yes, there's the 30 visits that Dan mentioned, obviously. But, I mean, everything that is known now is like screaming. It's a red blinking light, which isn't always the case with them, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and part of it is the fact that this year's draft has so few elite players. There's a lot of doubt just about how the draft is going to shake out before the Cowboys would even go on the clock at 24. And there could be some massive surprise still there that they just can't pass up. I'm a little bit at a loss, both because of that and because the Cowboys have not signaled. It looked like they were signaling early on about it going for a guard, but that seems to have died down. And I think they are having a lot of uncertainty about what they're going to be looking at when they get close to going on the clock. So that's why there might be a trade coming. It's just really hard to figure out.
Okay, well, you've all spoken. Does anybody want to offer anything else before we give the round 3 point? We're getting, deeper into this thing. So points are precious. That's all I'll say. Tom, that is a nice mug with a T on it, by the way. So good for you.
It was a gift.
I mean, yeah, if you bought that for yourself, that's a little bit of narcissism, right? Like buying a mug with like your own letter on it. It has to be a gift. Okay, so anybody have any final thoughts before we award this point? All right, the winner for round 3 on today's roundtable goes to Dan. I thought it was a great point to bring up the 30 visits. That is literally the set of clues that the Cowboys have handed us, more so than anything else. It's certainly more so than Steven's appearance today on 105.3 The Fan, although maybe to Mark's point, he will offer a little bit more later on this week.
I knew Dan was going to get it when he said he didn't play for the points.
Well, I mean...
Hey, don't tell my secrets, Tom.
Anyway, so the round 3 winner, of course, is Danny Phantom. So Mark has a point. Brian has a point. Danny has a point. Tom just stating facts again. So Dan, there's one more question left on the rundown. Whatever comes up naturally, organically, that I make up in my mind as we move along is yet to be determined. I have amended the point that you all saw in the Slack channel. So, and it's appropriate that we ask this week, of course, because last week, Tom, you and Roy White had Jeff Kavanaugh on from everywhere. Jeff is doing stuff, podcasts and videos all over the place. Everybody go check out his YouTube channel. And at the very end of your conversation, you asked him to make some guarantees about the upcoming draft for the Dallas Cowboys. So in the spirit of that, I'm going to ask each of you this. Dan, again, your question, you can pass it off if you'd like. What guarantees are we willing to make about the Cowboys right now, 9 days away from the draft beginning?
Well, other than what I said earlier with, I think the first round is going to be wide receiver guard. I mean, I think that's
no. That's too wide of a guarantee. Like a guarantee's got to be a laser focus, boom sort of thing. You can't cast a net for a guarantee.
Well, I said other than that.
That's not a real thing, though. So,
you want me to guarantee a player, a position?
I'll give you as wide of a parameter as a position. That's as wide as I'm willing to allow. But if you're throwing out multiple positions, I mean, you can just give the point back and walk away now, because that's not the spirit of this game.
I'm going to say what.
Kevin, by the way, offers, so nobody can take this answer. My guarantee is we will make a trade in the draft. So, that's gone. Sorry, Tom.
Yeah. I
think the T on your mug, Tom, stands for trade.
We're going to draft a starting caliber wide receiver. I guarantee that.
Okay. All right. Who would you like to make a guarantee next? Johnny Boy RN, by the way, says I guarantee that they draft a kicker. So that is off the board now for anybody to say. Dan, pick somebody else. Call them out. Drag them.
Let's get Tom's answer over with.
Tom, make a guarantee.
I guarantee they're going to pick up a cornerback somewhere as insurance.
Oh, Tom, this is such a lame guarantee. I mean, I guarantee they draft a football player. That's what you just said. I mean,
hey, I want RJ to go next.
Okay, I guarantee that they do not draft any of the small school prospects. Like, we can fall in love with all these different names. Jalen Tolbert is a name that a lot of people have talked about in the second round. Not going to happen. It's just not. They will not do it. They have tendencies, draft commandments. You had BTB alum Katie Drummond on the Star Seminar, Danny. I mean, they will not do it. They will not. If you have a small school prospect that you like, you can kiss it goodbye. We're talking Power 5, baby. That's where the Cowboys like to shop. Look at that, right off the top of this head.
Way to go out on a limb there, RJ.
You know, all I'm saying is you're fighting for the win here, Dan. So let's be careful. You know, I mean, just Brian, let's show these people how to make a guarantee. I Bleed Blue 365 offers we draft college teammates. Mark, you can correct me. It was the 2018 draft when they drafted Joe and Michael Jackson from Miami, I believe.
19.
Thank you very much. Both 5th-round picks. They were college teammates, both Miami Hurricanes. So that is off the board for anybody. I like that prediction. I believe Blue 365, Mike, at this point, unless you say something better, Brian.
I'm going to guarantee they draft a player from Georgia. I mean, there's so many good ones to pick from Jordan Davis, Devontae Wyatt, one of my favorites, Quay Walker. There's just so many. I think Dallas, if they go teammates, that's a good school to go from.
I like that. Are you willing? Can I add something? Are you willing to say a defensive player from Georgia? Willing to isolate it that much, or you want to widen the parameters a little bit yourself?
No, I'll stick with the defensive side. Of
Okay, I like this. Look, yeah. Brian is not afraid of a challenge. Everybody be inspired. Tom had the lamest one. Mark, what guarantees are you willing to make?
Can I elaborate on the trade one, or?
Of course you can, Mark. Okay. Just so you know, to set you up, Mark, Moinka says, I guarantee that they trade one or more of their 5th-round picks, move up to the 3rd. They have 4 5th-rounders, but go ahead, Mark.
Oh, yeah, definitely. When you see a preponderance of picks in day 3 like that, I mean, those are packages. That's just one of the rules. I think that they will package a deal and trade to number 21 overall with the New England Patriots to ensure that they get Kenyon Green. That's my guarantee.
What makes you feel so confident about all the specific details of this, Mark? I'm so curious.
Because when you look at the Jimmy Johnson trade value chart, which is kind of like a, just a guide, Dallas can take a 1st and a 3rd and then go and get Kenyon Green and ensure that their guard that they've targeted doesn't go to anybody else. If it's too risky, if they could jump to 19, no, it's 15, I believe. No, it's 19. They could jump to 19, but it would take a 1st and a 2nd in order to do that. And I don't think they'll go Mo Claiborne, but I think they'll trade like they did, honestly, with the Patriots in 2010, and they got Des Bryant out of it.
Last time they had the 24th overall pick, right?
So I think that the Patriots are going to be a trade partner for Dallas, and they get Kenyon Green out of it.
Well, they did not consummate the Lyle Collins trade. That was something that we all kind of thought may or may not happen over the course of this offseason. I like where your head is at, Mark. All right, now Mark has the lead. Does anybody want to make a more bold guarantee before the tabulation group goes and calculates the results? Dan, you have your finger raised.
Yeah, so first off, I want to say I sure hope that doesn't happen, because I think that would just be a terrible move for the Cowboys to spend 2 premium draft picks to get a player that they can probably get at 24. And if they miss out on him, there's Zion there. So I would hate for them to do that. I want to say this too. I think building on this picks thing, I think the Cowboys are going to end up with more than 9 draft picks. I think they love this draft class, and I expect them to do some trading, and they will pick more than 9 players.
So you're basically guaranteeing a trade back from in the 1st, which is where I would have leaned if you hadn't stolen it out from under me.
What do you mean stolen it out, Tom? 5 people have gone since you had the chance to go, including the commenters. I mean, who stole?
Yeah, and after you told me I couldn't use trade back, then you said, Mark, you can go talk about trading, stuff. I like that.
My dog is barking. So, Dan, keep expanding.
So yes, I will say maybe trade back's part of it, but I also think too, they could trade some of next year's draft capital. I just see them just when they get to that top part of the draft, they want more. I see them wanting more. So yeah, I think more picks. They could package to get better players too, but I just think they're going to really have a tough time picking when they get in that group because there's going to be a lot of players they love.
My wife distracted Bear with a bag of chips, just so everybody is aware it worked. So congratulations to him. He's the real winner of this round. But the not so real winner, Mark, big win there. I love the sequence with New England, kind of throwing it back to 2010. I think it would be poetic if it was for a wide receiver, just because of the commonality there. So that'd be fun, but it would be great for Kenyon Green.
You mean a starting caliber wide receiver?
Dan, if everybody can be right, if everybody can get points, that's what I want. But that's not the type of ship this is. All right, So back to Starboard. All right, so the score at this point: Mark has 2, Brian has 1, Dan has 2. But lucky for you guys, we have a bonus 5th question that is worth 100 points. So whoever gets this question right wins the round table. Tom, are you ready? Because you have to go first.
Sure, why not?
All right, it's a bit of an ambiguous question, kind of an essay question, if you will. Not that anything else was like multiple choice or anything like that. But, Tom, we like to get introspective here on the roundtable. I think you would agree. So in that spirit, what are you surprised that you think this close to the draft? That could be anything. That could be something you've changed your mind on, something that you have come to think, that you obviously never would have thought before, but something that you're like, man, I can't believe I think this, either in a positive way, like they've set themselves up great here, or in a negative way, like, man, I really would have thought that they would have done or, acknowledged or whatever this by this point in time. But we are not quite in the 11th hour, but we're very, very, very close. So, Tom Ryle, what are you surprised that you think this close to the draft? By the way, Ethan says, I love this show. We love you too, Ethan.
I just think that it's going to be that the Cowboys are going to surprise us. There's going to be something that's going to come out of the
This is a prediction, not a thought. This is a prediction.
Yeah, I believe
So you're surprised that you believe this is what you're saying?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I'm tidying things up. All right.
I'm thinking that they're going to make a pick in the first couple of days, and we're going to sit there going like, I did not see that coming. And I really am believing that because I haven't felt that nearly as much the past few years, but this year I just think something's going to come along and gobsmack us.
What was the last thing that gobsmacked you?
I'd have to say Taco Charlton.
I was a little I would say Jalen Smith was the last. If we're talking gobsmacked, that was a gobsmack sort of thing. Jalen
kind of just fit with their thing though about going after those injured players in the second round. So, that's, and I hope, I don't know, we could see something along those lines, but like I said, I just feel like there's going to be at some point by the end of the Friday picks that we're going to be going like, what did we just see?
Brian, what are you surprised that you think this close to the draft?
Well, this kind of goes back to the Dorrance Armstrong trying to drink the Kool-Aid. I was wondering, I've been thinking, those second round picks, they like to target those injury players. So I've been wondering about David Ojabo from Michigan.
Right.
That would surprise me if they're targeting him. Maybe they're building up Armstrong to completely,
smoke screen.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, yeah, that's what I've been thinking here lately.
Mark, you're next, but a couple from the comment section. Johnny Boy RN says, I'm surprised that I think they will reach in the draft because of their needs. So kind of along the lines with your, prediction that they will trade up. Mark says, I think someone big will fall to us, and then we got to decide if we want the splash pick or need pick. King Shadow 24, the Royal Court of Shadows. I'm surprised that nobody has a consensus pick for the Cowboys at this point. None of this Zion Johnson or Kenyon Green. Nobody knows who they're going to pick between the two if they're there. That's kind of what we talked about. Like generally by now the mock drafts are all kind of hovering and encircling one player or two players, but right now they're different positions. Like the latest mocks from ESPN, for example, are all pass rushers. But we're sitting here thinking it's going to be a guard or a wide receiver. So, Mark, I put it to you. What are you surprised that you think this close to the draft?
I almost even don't want to say it just because I don't want to, for a Cowboys fan's sake, put negativity in the air.
Oh, no. I'm super excited to hear this.
that they do a Taco Charlton thing, that they, you know, and I know that that's with what Tom said, but it just feels like the dysfunction of the offseason has gotten into the draft war room, and there's going to be an obvious pick, and it's like, that's the guy, and then, oh, it's the scheme fit. Scheme fit.
And
That's just what it feels like.
and though I probably shouldn't throw support, they haven't really whiffed in a while, and you just start wondering when the numbers is going to catch up.
Yeah, look at the whiff, for example. Claiborne 12. We'll agree that Taco was a whiff in 17, right? We're not going to say Zeke was a whiff.
Well, that's a more existential argument whether that was
That's
a whiff
what I'm saying.
or
They're
not.
due
Right,
for a whiff.
Right.
That's what I think.
was Leighton a whiff? I mean, Leighton's a year after Taco. Was he a whiff?
No, they're
He's
due
all
for
pro.
a
They didn't even
whiff
pick up his 5th-year option. How's he not a whiff? I mean,
because
contract.
he got a Pro Bowl in his rookie season, and then he just. But I mean, Taco was nothing, and that's what I mean was Morris Claiborne. He was held back because of injuries and availability issues. Same thing with Taco Charlton, and it just feels like they're due for a whiff.
I think if you'll allow me to extrapolate on your own sort of point here, Mark, it feels like they've been building this Sunday, right? Like this off-season Sunday of misery, and they're just due for the cherry on top, right? Like that's we need like a face for the offseason, because right now it's just kind of absent. It's just kind of this just void of discomfort and unsettledness and whatever. Kevin says, I think they don't have a good plan this draft, despite the fact that Mike McCarthy is apparently more focused on the draft than he's ever been throughout his NFL career. So Mark, just so you know, Johnny Boy RN says that you made him nauseous. How's that make you feel?
That's what I'm saying. I probably should have just made one up and not put that negativity out there and just let it be Tom's. But
so everybody knows
that's what I sense is that, like you said, RJ, there's going to be a face to this offseason.
Ethan says LVE has to be a whiff. So just to pause here, show of hands, who think or I think he's a whiff. Tom, do you think he's a whiff?
No, because he did come through. I don't see him. He's not a great pick, but he wasn't a complete whiff the way that Taco was.
Brian, do you agree with me or are you wrong?
I can see both sides of the argument. If he had stayed healthy, he wouldn't have been a whiff, but
he didn't. I mean, that's the thing. That was his thing. That was part of his analysis, leading up to the draft, and they knew that.
He was injury prone coming into the draft, and then he proven to be that way once he reached when he joined the Cowboys. I probably have to say he's a whiff.
Congratulations to Brian ahead of time. Just putting that out there for everybody to know. Dan, do you want to address the LVE thing or get straight to your surprise? So we have Brian, Ethan, and I. Ethan's also in the running for some points here tonight. Agree that Leighton was a whiff. Alex says LVE hasn't been the same since his neck issue showed itself. Again, a predictable sort of thing. As horrible as that is, it was just the case. Dan, your thoughts?
So do I believe that all-pro Leighton Vander Esch?
That's so unfair to say. That's a microscopic amount of who he had been as a player, and they had to draft Micah because of who he is as a player.
Okay, that's fair. Let's forget the good stuff. Let's I would say that it would be worth considering that maybe we could, this time last year, but he put together a solid. I mean, I guess it depends on what you expect out of every draft pick, and I think this kind of paints a picture of how we kind of just expect too much because based on these guidelines, there's a lot of whiffs that have NFL. I mean, teams are just whiffing left and right.
Sure.
Because they got 4 years out of him. They extended him, so he's got another year playing. So I mean, I would say he's probably fair to, a decent of a return. So no, I don't think it's a whiff.
Let me be clear. If the spectrum is defined as one end, the whiff end is Taco Charlton, and the success end is Dak Prescott, Leighton is not, right next to Taco. I think he's closer to that side of the spectrum, but there's an extreme that I don't think he is. So Dan, let's get back to the question at hand. We've had some really good answers. Shout out to the person who thought of this question. Dan, what are you surprised that you think this close to the draft?
So first off, speaking of really good answers, I have to give Mark his credit because, I mean, that to me, I think that was a great answer, and we are on kind of like a 5-year trend. If you look back, it's been 5 years since Taco, then 5 more years was Claiborne, and it would be really unsettling but fitting that this terrible offseason is capped off by a pick like that. However, my answer is going to be what I am surprised that I think is that this Cowboys team would consider using another first-round investment on a wide receiver after with Amari and with CD, and it's like all these other things.
Just to add to your point, there are also 2 extra contracts given to wide receivers in that same stretch of time. Amari got a second deal, and Michael Gallup got a second deal. So it's not just first-round picks; it's extreme premium resources. Carry on.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like I'm surprised that I'm actually buying into. Not only do I think that they'll do it, I mean, I sort of feel like they should. If the right guy falls, I think guard would be a bigger need, but I'm not going to pass up Chris Olave if he's available. So I'm surprised that I'm actually wrapping my mind around just more resources for Dak, just more wide receivers for Dak. But that's what I believe. So I'm surprised that I think that.
Dan, is there any semblance to the Zeke pick? Again, hindsight does not smile upon the utilization of that premium resource from a value perspective. And we can all acknowledge that. Nobody's going to sit here and relitigate the Zeke Elliott pick. But I still don't feel like the football world, football culture understood the proper valuation of running backs at that time. Like that was only 6 years ago, but we have learned an enormous amount since then. So even if we look at the time since the Cowboys traded their 2019 first-round pick for Amari Cooper, which was 3.5 years ago at this point, we have learned an enormous amount about how important it is to have 3 superstar wide receivers. So to make you feel better, I guess, like, is that maybe part of it, that the game has changed, that the need has changed to have that many wide receivers to where you're more comfortable throwing that, quantity of capital at it, to where you're surprised that you think this when you wouldn't have thought it in 2018 as an example?
No, I don't. I mean, maybe, but I also would think there's a couple other elements to this too. First off, the way the Cowboys operate, they're a follow the money kind of team. If they can get rid of Amari's contract and get a rookie contract, that's a big win cap wise. The second thing is every year this team continues to try to make it as Dak friendly as possible, whether it's franchise tagging a tight end that no one expected, to even be here, or all the things that they are doing to just put the right environment around Prescott. And if that means having 3 guys, then that's what it means. So I feel the Cowboys, they know what they need, and it apparently means more talented wide receivers.
Big thank you to King Shadow 24 for the super chat. Says, I almost want the draft to blow up in their faces so it gives them a wake-up call so that it forces them to change their strategy going forward. Negativity has been the theme of this offseason, so King Shadow kind of rooting for the negativity to just reach a breaking point, which was kind of what you said, Mark, with the thing that you think, and as a result, you get the 100 points. The round table winner today, Mark Lane. Congratulations to you, Mark. Hard-earned, hard-fought. Your thoughts? It's your second roundtable win so far in your illustrious career, Mark.
We're just focused on the draft and all of those broadcasts. But I will say I don't want to just leave the negativity out there. I think the way out, because of how this is kind of like where they were with the Taco thing. And what happened was you had a roster that, they're so close. It's just Aaron Rodgers. And Jeff Heath was the only one who could pass rush Aaron Rodgers. If they can get a pass rush, then they reached. I feel like if they'd have just gone BPA, just go BPA when your roster's almost complete, and then you just let the competition take care of itself, and that's the scheme fit. The coaches have to fit the scheme around that kind of talent. So I think the way out of this, of the negativity and the ambiguity of this draft, is they've got to go BPA, stick to their board, do not reach for need. Otherwise, I think the face for the dysfunctional offseason will manifest.
That's well said. Brian, do you feel more or less optimistic about the Cowboys than you did before we had this conversation?
I'm probably a little more optimistic.
All right.
Yeah, and I think as long as they, like Mark was saying, stick to their board, BPA, just put the draft in Will McClay's hands and let him do his thing. As long as he can keep Jerry Jones or Stephen Jones from jumping in and making some boneheaded trade or whatever, I think they'll be okay.
Dan, on a 1 to 10 scale, how excited are you and how nervous are you for this draft? Number for
goodness.
each.
Oh,
1 being the least, 10 being the most. I'm sure you're a 10 out of 10 on the excitement scale, but the nerves, I imagine, are all over the place.
I'm gonna go with 9 on both because I don't want to go to the max, but I'm pretty excited and I'm extremely nervous too. So I mean, I don't know. I mean, I guess, to me, I feel like I have a good feel for what's going on, but I kind of feel like, like Patrick Swayze in Roadhouse, we need to expect the unexpected. So, and the fact that I expect that, I don't know if that means I'm going to be caught off guard or not. So I don't know. I don't know where I'm at.
Julie Chen is upset that you did not give her credit for that line. That's the like tagline of every season of Big Brother. Tom, last question goes to you. Johnny Boy RN says, what kind of influence will McCarthy have in this draft? We've heard that McCarthy is heavily involved, the most involved he's ever been, et cetera, but we all also kind of sort of maybe all the way believe that Sean Payton is the future head coach of this team. It would be kind of dumb to then give Mike McCarthy full autonomy over what they're going to do, given that he might not be the coach next year. Do you agree?
Oh, I think he's just maybe got a little voice at the table, but he's not going to have anything. I don't think he's going to have as much influence as Jason Garrett used to have at times.
USFL broadcaster Jason Garrett. Please go ahead.
Yes, very good apparently. And so I think that's a little bit overblown. I think that's a little window dressing to kind of make it look like they haven't thrown McCarthy over the side preemptively. So, yeah, I don't think he's going to have a huge impact on anything.
Dan, Johnny Boy RN says, yes, Danny, but don't forget, be nice. I have not seen the movie that you referenced. I thought you made it up, to be honest. But apparently it's a real thing. Is that a line from the movie?
It is a line from the movie, yeah.
Okay.
Don't you know anything about being a bouncer?
I don't. Ethan says, great show, guys. God bless you next Tuesday, and thanks for the Roadhouse reference. So there you go, Dan. I mean, you're making people happy with your movie choices. In fact, to send us home, last words of the show, Dan, give us a movie recommendation. Go.
Oh my goodness, a movie recommendation? I'm not doing a movie, but
That's literally the question, but way to go. All right, it's fine.
I recommend everyone seeing Better Call Saul. Just if all the Breaking Bad fans out there, it's back on. You should be as happy as I am. It's time to lawyer up.
Tom, make a noise, a random noise, and then we say goodbye.
Wah!
Let's see you guys next time.